and welcome to Marketing Communications with me, your host, Daniel Rahman. My guest today is an award-winning YouTuber from the United Kingdom. He has over 119,000 YouTube subscribers with over millions of views and has been featured on the BBC. His video logs, aka vlogs, focus not just on entertainment, but university life, education, and diversity. A recent graduate from the University of Cambridge in psychology and behavioral science, he's currently doing a graduate in law. Welcome, Mr. Ibrahim Muhammad, popularly known as Ibsmo.
Hi.
Today we'll be talking about youth empowerment in the era of digital media. Ibsmo, are you ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right, so tell me, when did you start and why did you start your YouTube channel?
So I started YouTube in January 2017 and I started it in my first year of Cambridge University, and I did it because I came to a university that was, if we're being honest, quite elitist. It was quite prestige. It's a university that a lot of young people in today's society can't imagine themselves there. So I started a YouTube channel to document my time there, my experience there, as someone who kind of comes from a disprivileged background, to show young kids today that if I can make it to Cambridge, so can you, and here's how you do it.
So talking about the background, right? You are a young British man of Pakistani origin, single parent home, who comes from Hackney. How did this influence your motivation and your YouTube message?
So I think, first of all, coming from Hackney, which is one of the most deprived areas in the UK, having a low-income lifestyle, going to a school, like a low-performing state school, a public school, as well as, having that family structure where my mum didn't go to education, she didn't have any qualifications at all. It made my experience applying to university very difficult. Even just getting good A-levels, it made it very difficult. Despite that, I still did well and I was an active student. And so it is my main inspiration as to why I started the YouTube channel, again, to show people who come from those similar backgrounds that, we are going to go through struggles, we are going to face obstacles, but if you learn my techniques, hopefully you can, overcome that and then achieve.
So why do you think your channel has such an appeal? Is it because people like the kind of difficult to successful stories or that kind of hero character in their lives?
I think it depends on my audience, and I think I have two different types.
Right.
One that looks at me as, oh, this is rags to riches. So like you said, it's a success story. And everybody loves a success story.
Right.
The other audience I have is people like me. One reason why I say my channel is successful is because I am my audience. I am someone that comes from that background who would have liked to seen a channel that focused on being a minority within education. The reality was that there was a gap in the market, there was a gap in this YouTube world where there wasn't someone like me on there.
Do you think it also sends a message that, universities such as Cambridge or even Oxford, which tend to be unattainable to people of certain backgrounds or certain, economic groups, do you think this kind of inspiring message is something that's needed more of?
I think that it's been 3 years since I've done it, and I think what we've shown is yes. We have students who have said, because of my YouTube channel and because of the discussions we spoke about on there, and the things that they've seen from just the online world, students have now applied to these universities.
All right.
And it shows you that, because we have an increase in diversity now, we have an increase in disadvantaged students, it does show you that it did have an impact.
Right. So, how many people have you interviewed in your time now?
So on my YouTube channel, I've interviewed quite a few people. I would say students, I've interviewed maybe hundreds. Adults, people who are in their careers, maybe about 10 or 20. And those who are really high up in education, maybe about 3 or 4 people.
So of the many people you've interviewed, who would you say would have been your most interesting interview or, memorable?
I think it has to be Dr. Elizabeth Lee, who is the CEO of Sunway Education Group here in Malaysia. And it was interesting because it was a whole new experience, learning about what Malaysia is like here and learning about how the education system is here and hearing about her story. Sometimes you forget your interview, you're so inspired about what they're saying and their journey, be it if it's Elizabeth Lee from Malaysia or if it's the Vice Chancellor of Cambridge. I interviewed him as well. Hearing their stories, you forget that you're supposed to have this formal discussion because you're just so inspired. So I think just hearing the inspiring stories.
What was it like interviewing your own Vice Chancellor?
So I tried to get this interview started for a whole year.
Okay.
The moment I found out that Cambridge was having a new Vice-Chancellor, I said, let's document it on social media and specifically through video. Because, you know, you can write an article about him and that's great, but there's only so much you can get from an article. I want to see his facial expressions, I want to see his body language, I want to see how he reacts to me.
Yeah.
And so we started it, we had a whole camera crew ready, you know, tried to get it done for a whole year, and it was amazing. You know, we wanted to break down that barrier of an elitist university and having an individual who's at the top. I wanted to break that down and show young people that he's just a normal individual like all of us.
Right. So, last question before we go to a break. You've once mentioned that your college wasn't as keen on you producing videos, rather that they were more keen on you focusing on your essays.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with this, and and why do you think there was this kind of resistance initially?
Okay, so this is a very important life lesson I've learned, which is that number one, not everyone is going to like and support what you do. And I think everyone in the world knows that. I realised it this way. So with Cambridge University, for those who don't know, there are 31 different colleges, and the colleges, you know, your accommodation, it's kind of where you do your main academic skills, and it's also where you kind of just live, it's college life. So I was at one college, Wolfson College, and, you know, when I was doing YouTube videos, I did hear from my tutor, you know, you should consider focusing on work more, because some individuals in the college they don't like it. It was hard, because I didn't know why, but later on, after kind of doing this for 2-3 years, I realized why, because people are scared of social media.
Yeah.
People are scared of, you know, the media industry.
So they got when they saw you doing it, and then when there was more attention and there was interest and it was inspiring people, it actually changed their perception.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll be back right after this. So hold that thought. Okay. Welcome back to Marketing Communications. With me today is award-winning YouTuber Ibs Mo, and today we'll be discussing youth empowerment in the era of digital media. So Ibs, before the break, you mentioned how after you started doing your YouTube channel and the videos, then you saw greater acceptance coming not just from your university, but also from the public at large. On the point of youth empowerment, in November 2018, you've worked with Nobel Prize, Peace Prize laureate Malala Yousafzai. What was that like, and what did you all do together?
So that was an interesting experience, because I knew who Malala was, of course. I knew that she was coming to Oxford University, and Cambridge and Oxford, we do work quite closely together. And what linked us together was the fact that despite, you know, our backgrounds and despite our universities, we are still ethnic minorities at Oxbridge. I'm a Pakistani minority and so is she. So we launched something called the Oxford Pakistan Access Conference, which was the first time ever any university in Oxford has done this, which basically meant that we organised an event where we had students from disprivileged Pakistan backgrounds attend a conference, and we spoke to them about what life is like here as a Pakistani student, how to survive here as a Pakistani student. And we looked at student volunteers who spoke about their experience as a Pakistani student. The whole idea is that we wanted to connect with our audience on that level of being a Pakistani person to motivate them to apply.
And how powerful or how important was the role of digital media in sending out this message or in engaging with youth?
So, okay, I'll put it to you this way. The attendance that we had at this event, the majority of it came from my social media platforms.
Oh, wow.
So being able to say, we're hosting an event, apply. The majority, if not 100% of the attendees, found out it through that. So it's a marketing strategy as well as a force to create social change.
Right. So one of the biggest challenges we see in the landscape of course nowadays is there's a lot of disinformation, there's a lot of fake news, and you know, people now use the word alternative facts. What do you see as the role of, you know, the youth or and digital media in addressing this?
I think that the role of fake news and the impact that alternative facts could be, I think it implies that the audience, when they're receiving this news, they're passive. They passively just understand it and accept it. In reality, I think that the youth deserve a bit more credit. I think we're a lot more engaged, because nowadays, through social media as well as, you know, mass media, we have different viewpoints. We understand that this is a view from this perspective and this perspective and this perspective. And I think that actually allows us to create a more conclusive argument. Which view do we think is better?
But most people say that the youth are gullible and they are the ones susceptible to fake news, to spreading it.
Exactly, but have the youth said that? Have we proven that? Not really. It's kind of people from a different generation to us. So how can you speak on our behalf when we're not even speaking on our behalf? So I think that is a view that I understand to an extent, but I think give credit to us young people. We're out here learning a lot more and we have a lot more sources of information than we did previously.
Right. One of the things is a lot of youth like to get into the space because they like to express themselves. What do you see as the key platforms today for youth to express themselves? So you're on YouTube. Are you on any of the other platforms?
Of course I am, yeah.
Which ones?
I'm on every social media account you think of. Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. I'm on everything.
What about TikTok? That's
okay, maybe I'll get into TikTok. Maybe. But the reason why I utilize these social medias specifically is, like you said, we want to express ourselves. And the key thing about social media, and also the danger of it, but the beauty, is that it's not regulated, per se. So I can put out any message I want to on social media. And I think young people, when we do want to express ourselves, if we were to do it through a formal organization, there are so many filters. But as young people, like you said, we want to express and be authentic, and social media allows that, because if I start a YouTube channel and I'm the one that puts out a video, it's my platform. So it gives us as young people responsibility and authority of what we want our message to be.
But the usual argument for regulation is that sometimes young people, they tend to be a bit too unfettered in their expression, or it might not come necessarily from a place of, I don't know, maturity. People always say that, right? Young people are not mature enough. Do you not think that having, unregulated media platforms is unhealthy?
I agree to an extent, and I think that we have seen a lot of individuals, a lot of YouTube social media stars who have perhaps not put an educated perspective on a platform with a large following, and it may influence them. However, focusing on the positives, likewise, we've seen a lot of individuals, Malala, Greta, and I hopefully like to think myself as someone who has put out an educated and positive message. And I think instead of maybe, critiquing these young people, perhaps the older generation should mentor us. They should help guide us, because the one thing that we do lack, you're right, is experience. So teach us that experience, but also appreciate that we are individuals who will use platforms. So I think guide us as opposed to tell us off.
Coming back to the question on platforms, where do you foresee your future audience coming from? Those who are, on YouTube, those on Instagram. What do you see the future platform trends? Where do you see this leading to?
So I think demographically speaking, a lot of my audience are young students, ranging from around 18 to 24. That's my biggest audience. But of course, I have a lot of older individuals who watch me, staff members who are part of education, even vice chancellors watch me as well from some of our universities. So I think my audience are growing because, I'm talking about more discussions, new different topics. Also, I'm growing as an individual, I'm certainly becoming into the workplace, and so I obviously will get a lot more older followers. But at the same time, with education, there's always a need to inspire the youth. And so I'll always hopefully have that youth connection.
So one of the things you've talked about is your passion about education, and you've even launched a charity called BTYS Limited. Young people or youth don't often launch charities at such a young age. Can you tell us about this charity and what you hope to achieve from it?
So this is the charity that worked with Malala, and it's BTYS. It stands for Building Today's Young Students Limited. The whole idea is we want to inspire young individuals to apply to university, but our unique selling point is that we focus on psychologically based intervention workshops. All that means is that we're influenced by psychologists such as Oyserman, who basically looks at the role of representation on a psychological basis. The idea that young people at the age of 15, 16, 17 will look at individuals who look like them, who act like them, and they will base their success on that. If I'm a young Pakistani man and I see a successful Pakistani man who went to Cambridge, because we're Pakistani, it's going to impact me. Obviously, that we don't want that to always be the case. We want people to, despite whether you look like or you act like, we want you to be inspired. But the reality is, and the evidence is there, that young people at that age, within education, are using that to motivate them. So that's what we do. We try to motivate young people by focusing specifically on social characteristics.
We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Marketing Communications. Today we're talking about youth empowerment in the era of digital media, and I have award-winning YouTuber Ibs Mo with me. Ibs, what brings you to Malaysia?
So, I obviously do a lot of work on social media, and so I was invited to speak at the Sunray University RCS Young Scientist Research Conference, and I spoke about social media and the impact it can have on education. So I came here for that.
What was this conference about?
It was about how we can utilize science to, create a much more inclusive world, what young researchers can do, and how we can, be influenced by other people's work.
Yeah. So what was your message to participants of the conference?
That you shouldn't be scared of social media. I had a lot of talk at the conference that a lot of individuals, social media is bad because, you hear this, you hear that, as opposed to social media is good because you are also exposed to X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And so my main message was that social media isn't the source of bad news.
Yeah.
It's the medium
Yeah.
of any type of news.
Right.
Social media can share good news and bad news.
Right.
Just analyze it correctly.
Yeah. So do you do any paid work through your YouTube channel or from this?
Yeah, we have sponsorships that help us kind of fund the career, and
Right.
also I pay for my tuition, my law school tuition myself. So I try to utilize as much social media sponsorships as I can.
Right. Do you see this as something that's growing, or how do you see the market for hiring of influencers such as yourself?
So it's very important. I think it's increasing because, there's been so many statistics and so much examples of social media influencers who are really, helping businesses. Kylie Jenner, I think, is the perfect example. I think it was released by the Financial Times that one of her posts can reach more individuals at the Super Bowl. So
Right.
her one
Wow.
Instagram post
Pretty
compared
big.
to the whole Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So it shows you that there is, room for potential. I think what's happening now is there are so many individuals who are aspiring to become social media
Would be
influencers
influencers,
that
yeah.
we're actually seeing an increase in marketing agencies,
Right.
in managers, that it makes it more competitive.
Okay.
But I think what my job personally is to, as an education influencer, is try to focus on the sponsorship or the brands that I can see working with ethically, that actually want to help me make a difference in education.
Talking about ethics then and your interest in education, what are brands that you would never work with?
Okay, so I've had some examples where some brands want to promote a study pill, a study
pill?
drug.
Gosh.
The idea that, you take this drug and you work really well.
Wow.
I've had some sponsors say to me, oh, why don't you share this platform, which is we will write your essays for you if you pay us a certain amount. Am I really going to share that with my followers? Of course I won't, because I'm someone who believes in meritocracy and believes in the idea that if you work hard, fingers crossed, you can achieve. So why would I promote these brands? And they're increasing.
Yeah.
Yeah, increasing.
Then do you think would you then speak out against them?
I have. I've spoken with the BBC. I have spoken on these companies, and it's quite it's a paradox for me because I want to work with sponsorships to help
that's
my
right.
business and to help fund my tuition.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to call out every single brand or sponsorship because then I'm not going to be able to work with many. So it's an interesting time.
Yeah.
It's an interesting time.
It's interesting. It's interesting also because you see, a lot of these brands throwing potentially money and finances at potential influencers. What are the guiding principles that you stand by in deciding who to work with or who not to work with?
I think it has to be, is the product I am promoting, does it cost a lot of money? And is it effective? And this is trial and error. I've promoted events or I've promoted products that I personally haven't actually used.
Right.
And I think as an influencer, I need to be more responsible with actually saying, here's a product I use and I stand by it.
Yeah.
I think that's what I need to work on now, is actually testing products and testing these brands and, are they actually ethical?
Yeah.
So I think that's what I want to do now.
So would you encourage companies, one of the big resistances we see in the market is that companies are excited by digital media but don't really know how to start or where to get started, especially when they're trying to promote their brands through social media and through influencers.
Yeah.
What would your advice to organizations looking to get into this space be?
I think look at success stories and look at examples where it has worked. I think, like we said before, a lot of people are scared because they just don't know. They don't know what they're getting themselves into. And, digital media is something that isn't really regulated, so there isn't really a structure. There isn't, economists who are, their full job is social media. So look at success stories, and I personally think speak to the influencers.
Right.
Because this job is through us. We're the ones that set the prices. We're the ones that would film and edit, and we're the ones who know our audience best. Speak to us.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that there will be kind of this new form of consultancy that comes from the social media influencers. So it's interesting that there's a double network. It's not just bottom up, it's also top down. Just engaging with us.
Right. And how would they, when they engage with an influencer, sometimes they want things to go viral, and viral usually means content that's not sophisticated or kind of just very haha sort of content. How would you ensure that there's enough sophistication and you don't overly dumb down the message?
So I think it's interesting that that's your definition of viral, because my definition is completely different.
All right.
My definition is, does it get enough views and is it globally seen?
Right.
And so I think that you can
But isn't that usually content that's frivolous?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that maybe to the majority, yes.
Yeah.
But some posts that I've had that are viral is my experience applying to Cambridge. You know, I did a whole video that was almost seen by 500,000 people. I did another video where I was asking Cambridge students GCSE questions. The whole idea was to show the world that even Cambridge students can sometimes get it wrong on GCSEs and A-levels.
Right.
So these videos went viral. And I think that maybe it's something that we need to look at in the future, which is what balance can we have where, you know, we're still credible, the message is still important, but at the same time it has that entertainment value where it can go viral. So maybe we're now entering a new discussion where we can now focus on quality rather than quantity.
Right, and this would then be probably the responsibility of organizations who want to get into the digital media space.
Yeah, I believe so. I think, again, you know, seeing what works well, seeing what your audience is, seeing where demographics are, seeing where what gap is there in the market that digital media can utilize, you know? Is it, for example, you want to work on recruitment? Is it that you want to promote a certain brand, or you want to talk about the ethics of a company? What message do you want to spread across globally? Because that's what social media can do.
Right. Lastly, what are the communications trends to look at in 2020? I've got 30 seconds. What do you think?
Okay, I think looking at the whole Kylie Jenner situation, which is using social media to create business and to create brands and expand profit, is going to be really cool. I think that we're looking at a lot of interconnectivity with the world, to seeing how can we utilize social media to connect with this part of the world, you know?
Right.
Education, I think, is going to be the most important and the biggest rise that we're going to see utilizing social media for, be it student experience, for recruitment, for generally working on sponsorships. I think education, social media, watch out for it. It's going to be big. Hopefully.
All right, Ibsmo, thank you very much.
Thank
That's
you so
all
much.
the time we have here today. And for those of you at home, thank you for tuning in. Until next week on Marketing Communications, thank you and have a good day.